not generic. It doesn't say generic things just because you can model it, graph it, or compute it. You need to understand the meanings behind the representation. You need to understand what the edges mean. Not all data is equivalent, even if it can be represented in ways that look equivalent. On that note, we have to talk about the why. The questions about what and questions about why are fundamentally different. Now, I think this is best seen through the world of marketers. Nobody loves big data better than marketers, and nobody misinterprets big data better than marketers. My favorite moment came when I was on a panel. A brand marketer was proudly announcing, a brand marketer from Coca-Cola was proudly announcing that they had embraced MySpace and they had acquired some extremely large number of friends on MySpace, and they were really excited about this. I was on this panel and I couldn't stop but bursting out laughing. And the reason why is that I had started noticing with my teenagers that a lot of them had been connected with Coke. So I started poking around to ask why. I started asking why they were participating. And after talking to a few people, I found the answer. Those who were linking to Coca-Cola were making an identity statement, but it wasn't that Coke that they were referring to. This did not go over well, by the way, with Coca-Cola. And they were very spreading some stuff about how they announcing the fact that they were being used. So analyzing traces of people's behavior and interactions is extremely important in research. But you also have to understand the extent to which you can actually ask the questions you're meaning to get at. If you look at frequencies, if you look at what you can compute, you can get to the what. But what and why are different questions. If you want to work with big data, you need to know the limits of your question and know when you actually have to collaborate with other people to actually make those connections to get into this. You can't motivate your analysis based on whatever you'd like and then assume that you've answered the why questions just because you could model it. This becomes a really big problem in the worlds of big data. Now, it's not just researchers who keep messing this up. I'm completely entertained by the ways in which average people actually assume that what and why are the same thing, especially when it comes to making information available. Back in the day, there was a cute little software agent called Cobot who used to roam Lambda Mu. And it collected all sorts of data about the people who were participating there. And eventually the participants in Lambda Mu were upset. They were like, well, if this robot is going to be here, the robot should give back. The programmers went, okay, we can make the little robot give back. So they programmed Cobot to be able to answer questions about the data that it collected. Needless to say, the first thing that people asked was, who do I talk to the most frequently? And somebody wrote back, Bob. Ah, well then who does Bob talk to the most frequently? Alice. I don't like Bob anymore. And all of a sudden, people misinterpreted the fact that they had frequency to assume that it was about high strength and importance. And Lambda Mu turned into a complete field of drama, right? About all of these questions about who is most important. We keep seeing drama come back over and over again about these misinterpretations. Keep in mind that every act of data analysis, whether it is by you as researchers or by people who are participating in these environments, regardless of how big or mathematical your data set is, requires interpretation. There's a mistaken assumption that qualitative research is about interpretation and quantitative research is about producing facts. As computational scientists have started engaging in this world, they've started seeing it as a quantitative activity where they are the fact givers. And you can build a model that is mathematically sound. You can produce an experiment that is perfectly methodologically sound. But the process of understanding what it means is a task of interpretation. And interpretation always has biases, it always has accountabilities. And going through that process, learning how to keep those biases in check becomes absolutely critical.